Hello. Sorry, I got Hallelujah Annie out here today. Say hello, Annie. Saying hello to everybody out there in model railroading land. Hey, welcome to the show tonight. We have Mr. Baronic, the track planner, part 2, on our show tonight. This is not Who's Big Bill Talking To, but this is the track planner. What's the track planner working on with Mr. Bill Baronic? I will be your moderator and host tonight in regards to this show. Just trying to get things set up here. First, let me give a shout out to all the brothers and sisters out there. SteamYard is out there. Robert Holloman. Hey, Robert, how are you? Dwight at Northern Star. Lynn McCurdy in the HDMMRC, CV Railroad and HO Scale. Evan Smith. Hello, Evan. Let's see. Wigwag Workshop is out there. New comments. M&M Rails is in the house. Hey, how are you guys? So tonight's going to be a good night. It's going to be part 2 of Mr. Baronic and his track planning and what is the track planner working on. But before we do that, I just want to give you guys a heads up. Am I talking too fast? Because I'm pretty much been talking all day. Let me calm down. Brad Trains is here. Hey, Brad, how are you, buddy? Let's see. February 17th, Johnny's Train Talk Show. That's a Thursday evening. And that's Johnny's Train Talk Show. That's at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. All shows on the Model Railroading Live channel are at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Johnny's Train Talk Show will be on February 17th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's where you, the guys in the community, can come aboard and be on the video too as well. He puts a notice in the comments or below it in description, and you guys can come and join and be a part of it. So you can do bring and brag if you want. If you have something you want to bring and brag about, by all means, and stuff like that. And just mosey on down to Johnny's Train Talk hobby shop there. Pull up a chair, grab a cold pop soda out of the freezer and sit down and enjoy. And Lynn McCurdy and the HDMRI says, Bill, did you hear about Michael Nicodemus? No, I did not. And I hope it's not bad news. We just had one of our esteemed colleagues pass away, Andy, the gentleman who built that viaduct bridge, the big bridge. Unfortunately, he passed away, I think, on February 3rd. He did not, he had cancer, and it succumbed to cancer. And our prayers and thoughts go out to Andy's family and his children, and praying to God that he's in a better place without no pain. So, Lynn McCurdy says that Mr. Michael Nicodemus passed away. Oh, Michael Nicodemus was a brother who believed in Jesus Christ, so I know that he is home with the Father. But I'm sorry to hear that. I am. To his wife, our condolences. This has been really rough year. Rough. Oh, so sorry to hear about Nick and Michael and Andrew passing away. Robert Holloman is letting me know that the final episode of the Railroad Empires will air at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and this is due to a 2-hour live stream Andy and Robert are going to be doing on February 19th. So put that in your calendar, 7 p.m. on February 19th. Oh, let me get that fascia board out of there. February 19th, it's going to be a 2-hour live show. It'll be the final episode of Railroad Empires for this season, and then they'll be preparing more stuff. And just to let you guys know, this is Model Railroading Live. It is the #1 model railroading show in the world, if not the universe. Why is that? Because I say so. That's why. Hey, good evening, Chris Lambert from California. How are you, buddy? Let's see who else is in the house. I guess that's it. Hey, listen, I want you guys to stay tuned. Don't all bail, because I have a special announcement for next week's show. Next week's show will be Who's Big Bill Talking To on February 16th. We have a special guest, and we also are going to be doing a giveaway. That's right. You heard it right. You heard it right here, right now. We're going to be doing a giveaway. Okay. So stay tuned to the end of the show. Don't all bail out and run away. Make some hot chocolate and get some ice cream with whipped cream. Wait till I finish. I'm going to let you know who our new guest will be, and I'll clue you into what the giveaway is going to be. Okay. So without further ado, who else? Nick's Crossings here. Hello, the train freaks in the house. John Roel is in the house. Leonard Skinnett from Toledo, Ohio is in the house. Hey, there you go, John. What else? So without Eminem Rail says, are we talking to Cupid next week? No, that's on the 14th. Is that Valentine's Day? Valentine's Day. Don't forget, guys, go out and get your wives and your girlfriends and some nice things, some Valentines. Don't take her out for dinner. Don't be taking her to Burger King. Don't be taking her to Big Dave's hot dog shop or anything like that. Take her out to a nice dinner or prepare dinner. Get a nice flowers for her. Get something nice for the wife because she puts up with our nonsense and all our craziness here. So let's treat them nice. Human City Junction's in the house. Bernard C's in the house. So without further ado, let us bring in the track planner, a.k.a. Bill Baronic.
Billy?
Mr. Baronic, how are you today?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Doing fantastic.
I see that you, as me, woke up today. That's a good thing.
Yeah, I even put on a clean shirt. How's this? Does that look pretty good?
I'd like to tell you the same thing, but I was putting together furniture tonight, so I didn't get a chance to change. Anyway, so now we're in part 2 of what is the track planner working on?
Well, what we did in the last month was I showed one that was a shelf layout, and I thought I would start it out kind of simple, something that everybody could easily relate to. This month, we're going to kind of go to the opposite end of this. We're going to go to a layout that takes up about 24 by 20 triple deck there, and being built by a gentleman who his profession is cabinet making. And as we go through the program, we get to the second half with the pictures that he has sent me. I think you guys I certainly learned a lot from him sending me these pictures. And when you see a professional cabinet maker make bench work for a model railroad, that's kind of interesting. So
yeah, I you know what? I think anytime anybody puts screw to wood and glue to wood and puts it together and can do it, but it's even better when a professional knows what they're doing.
Yeah, because I've been in the hobby for, I guess, 40 years or so. And
you're a new guy.
A new guy.
Yeah,
this gentleman has, and I've built like 5 layouts. This gentleman showed me some things that were really simple, stupid, and you kind of just hit yourself in the head and you go, wait a minute, why didn't I think of that?
I know, right? I know.
It's amazing. So it's going to be, it won't be a layout that I'm going to tell everybody out there that's watching, you can build this, because you got to have the space and you got to have, the skills to do this reasonably complicated bench work that we designed.
Right. Now, Bill, before we go any further, where's this gentleman from, by the way?
His business is in New Hampshire. He lives in Vermont, right on the border there. And basically it's Northern Vermont.
Okay. All right. Now, last time, after the last show, you and I had spoken. Could you tell everybody about the gentleman in the Mediterranean?
I received a questionnaire from a gentleman that had, quote, an American name. It wasn't an unusual name, but he put his address on the questionnaire as Malta. And I had to think a little bit about where Malta was. And I go, wait a minute, that's in the middle of the Mediterranean Ocean. So I kind of took the attitude, is this really kind of a scam or somebody fishing what's going on here? I didn't want to believe it. Well, it's totally legit. I am now designing him a layout, a triple deck layout. I am designing him in N scale there, that's going to fit in a house that he lives in on the island of Malta. You don't think of Malta as being very big, but I looked up on Google. They've got 500,000 people living on the island, so it's not that small of it.
And he said,
Well, the best part, and I think what you're asking me about it, Bill, was as we communicated back and forth, he sent me an email and thanked me for mentioning his name in the last show there. So I told Bill, I says, well, okay, he's Bill likes to say, you know, we're a worldwide show. Well, we really are. I mean, we got people watching from everywhere,
all over the world, and some parts of Malta.
Malta. I through emails, I kind of, another thing that's happened since I talked to you, Bill. I kind of asked him in an email about how he gets stuff. You know, you just don't run down to the hobby store in Malta.
I don't think Hobby Lobby's down on the corner there.
I don't think so. And he said he's found out since he's lived there. He's from Canada, and he's lived there. I thought he said 10 years. I could be wrong on that. But what he told me in the email was it's difficult to get stuff shipped there. It takes a lot of time. And it was kind of amazing. He said eBay gets things to him much faster than regular mail, like FedEx or people like that. When he orders from a company in the States, it can take a long time. And that what'll be interesting for me is when I get these plans done and it's all finished, and I send him the plans, and that it'll be interesting to see what the postage bill is to send a tube of drawings.
Plan, well, we have a question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Before the train freak wants to know what is a good height would you recommend between levels for N scale?
What I'm doing with this one for the gentleman on Malta is I think we're doing it. I think we're going 14 inches there. And in HO, I usually try to go 18 inches. So there's about a 4-inch difference there. On it. A lot of N scale, I also recommend in N scale that because this is going to be a 3-level one I'm doing for him. The bottom level is just staging. The height of that is not seriously important. But when you're doing an N scale layout, if you set the main level too low, then what you're doing is everything looks like it's a helicopter view when you're looking at the main level. So in HO, I'm 5'10", 5'10" and a half. A good height for me in HO is 42 to 44 inches for the main level.
Right.
And then 18 inches above that for the upper level. In N scale, I a lot of times recommend people go 46, 47, 48 inches high. So you aren't looking down on these little trains like you're a helicopter up in the air.
Right.
It's much more realistic if you don't have to be perfectly level with it, but just don't be looking down on it.
Right. So let us move forward with this layout here.
Well, let's see if we can share this now.
Here we go.
We're going to try this, okay?
All right. Everybody cross your fingers and dot your I's and whatever else you got to do.
I'm going to try to bring it up here.
Train Freak replies, that's why I'm building my top deck eye level.
Okay, can we see this, folks?
What's the track planner working on?
You can see it.
I certainly can.
Man, we ought to probably go to work then, shouldn't we?
We should. We're cooking with gasoline now.
Okay, I'm going to hide this thing at the bottom here.
Union City Junction says, I'm getting confused as I can see a computer behind Bill, but he must be on a different computer.
I'm in a room where I actually have 3 computers and 4 monitors. So, yeah, kind of unusual on that. And
Heath, is that a Three Stooges question?
Yeah, right. Well, okay. Well, the first part of this program will just be for the people who didn't see last month's program. So those of you who watched last month, just bear with me for a couple of minutes here while I run through this.
This is what we known as a recap.
This is a recap. Well, kind of a recap.
A short recap.
Right. The purpose here is this. I want to give insight in how I take a client's dream, and that's, I think, what we all have when we talk about a new layout.
Yes.
And it's an idea, it's a dream, so on. I want to show you how I use research, conceptualization, and just decades of goofing around doing track plans to come up with a reality for the client, for the customer. This is what I did here, Bill, is I updated this because of the Malta thing. This is my bio, where I moved to Colorado 2001. I belong to the Northern Colorado Model Railroad Club. And the one there that says, to date, I've designed plans. The last issue, or the last month, that said 6 different countries. I can now add Malta to it. So we're now to 7 countries now.
Actually, you can add Brooklyn and Staten Island to that.
Yeah, I could.
They consider that would 7, 8. That would round it out.
That's a possibility there on it. I also contract with a company called Affordable Model Railroads in Tennessee, and I do anywhere from 50 to 70% of their bills. Affordable Model Railroads is a company that builds custom model railroads, usually, not always, but in a lot of cases, high net worth individuals that maybe have the ability to build a layout, but they just don't have the time to do it. So,
they're drinking. They're Heineken guys.
That could be. That's exactly
right. We're Pabst Blue Ribbon kind of guys.
That's exactly right.
I got you.
I do these YouTube videos, and most everybody knows that I write articles for a magazine called the Modeler's Journal, which is a free online magazine.
Now, do you on the Modeler's Journal? Do you do a monthly?
It comes out every 4 months. It's a quarterly, is what it is.
Oh, okay.
And so I only have to do it every 4 times a year, so it's not a big deal. It's the thing that's kind of crazy about that is I now think we're up to close to 17,000 subscribers to the magazine. Which
it's a free magazine, e-magazine.
It's a free magazine. Just all you got to do is go to the modelersjournal.com and you can sign up for free.
There you go. Robert Holman says, contrary to popular belief, Bill, Brooklyn and Staten Island are not countries. So you say.
Yeah, right.
There are there are 2 people in the world: people who are from Brooklyn and people who want to live in Brooklyn.
There you go. There's the answer.
And that's all I got to say about that.
My design philosophy is really pretty simple, but I think there are important elements that you do. I always try to make all of my plans designed so they can operate prototypically. But as I've always said, I'll repeat it every time I get a chance.
Sure.
I can design a rail fanning layout for you, but I can't always make that layout operate prototypically.
Right.
I can design a prototypical layout for you, and we can always make it a rail fanning layout.
Okay.
So you can go one direction, you can't always go the other direction. Right. I like to have walk along main lines. That makes the operators feel like they're actually going somewhere, makes the layout feel bigger. Big fan of narrow bench work, long main line runs. I love those. Trains traveling through scenes only once. Right. that's an important thing. And a lot of people will say, well, how do you get it to do that? Well, if you're holding a prototypical op session, trains only run when they have a job to do.
It's
And a
true.
lot of trains on railroads, on these model railroads and these operations that we set up for them, only run one time during an op session. Again,
True. True.
prototypical, like the real railroad. I like to add peninsulas because that adds length to the main line, and view blocks down the center of the peninsulas create, again, the feeling, the layout being much bigger than it is. And if you're going to do prototypical operations, you've got to have staging. It's really hard to do anything prototypical without. And when I say staging, I'm not talking about big, large staging yards. The last couple layouts I've designed, two of them have been designed with 2 tracks as staging yards because the clients didn't have very much space, but we were able to get 2 hidden staging tracks on the layout, which made a big difference in how it's going to operate for them.
Right.
The software, I think most of the people know, I use AnyRail. I've got, Third Planet and all that, but my problem with Third Planet is kind of like using Microsoft Excel. You only use about 20% of it. In AnyRail, I've found that if you really concentrate on it and you take your time and you learn it, it'll do a lot of things that kind of surprise you for an inexpensive program. And I think I can honestly say that in AnyRail, I probably know 80 or 85% of the ability of the program, what it can do, because
Right.
I've been operating it now for almost 10 years.
Oh, there you go. The train freak wants to know, do you prefer open-ended staging or stub end?
What I try to do on all of my, not on all of them, the ones that I can do it on, I always like to include a return loop, a reversing loop, so that trains that are coming into staging have been out on the layout. Now they're going into, say, hidden staging. I'd like to have the reversing loop so that trains automatically can restage themselves and are ready for the next operating session. And
Oh, well, that makes sense.
a lot of people think that that takes up a tremendous amount of space. It does. The turn back takes up some space, but if you design the layout correctly and you've got staging on your lower level, you can hide it by one of the peninsulas on turn
Right.
backs. It can be done.
Yeah.
It's totally possible to do it.
And John Benechek wants to know, how does AnyRail compare to AutoCAD?
To be honest, John, I've never used AutoCAD. I really don't know. AnyRail is up to version 6.42, I think now, or 6.4 something. I started using AnyRail when it was version 2 or 3, and I'm patiently waiting for version 7 because I've recommended numerous things to David, who owns the company, that I'd like to see improvements done to the program. And I wait for this version 7 to come out to see if he's going to incorporate any of those. I did communicate with him, and the reason that version 7 hasn't already been out is when COVID hit, AnyRail's sales, David told me, went completely through the roof there. He says it was crazy how many units they sold, and they sold so many units that the design team that was designing version 7, the latest version, had to stop doing it because they needed everybody on support to deal with all the new versions that were out there. Hopefully that's going to change here in the near future, I hope.
Mm-hmm.
What you see on the screen here right now, guys, is my questionnaire that is on my website. What this does is this gives me a really good insight into what my clients are thinking about. What do they really want? What do they want to do? And it saves me calling them on the phone and asking a lot of questions that I can get the answers that I need with this questionnaire here. Okay, let's talk about this client here. He owns a company in New Hampshire called Northwoods Manufacturing, and he builds quality cabinets and components. I've talked to him on the phone numerous times. He does both commercial and residential. He allowed me to use these two pictures. These are a couple pictures from his website of some of the commercial stuff that he's done and that. So it appears that he does very, very excellent work. And when you see his bench work on this layout, I think you'll agree he does. Again, his business is in New Hampshire, but I think he lives in Vermont there. What did he want? What was the givens that he wanted on this layout? Well, he wanted the location to be northern New England. The era was going to be transition, which meant both steam and diesel, but primarily 4-axle diesels. Proto-freelance, freestanding with a modified L girder type bench work on it. 3 levels, lower staging, the middle level was the main line, and the upper level was the branch line. This layout's a little different. I'll explain as I go along. The main level has continuous running, but the branch line is exactly what a branch line should do. You run on the branch line, and eventually it comes to an end, and you've got to turn around and come back. There's no continuous running on the branch line, which is the upper level of this layout. He wanted a single track main line with obviously passing sidings, and he wants to do prototypical operations. That was one of the reasons he contacted me. The space that he has to work with, it's kind of unusual here. First of all, he bought a farmhouse in New England, and I think it was a little bit older farmhouse, and he's been renovating it over the last few years. We're using the basement of the farmhouse. The layout space is 24 by 20. We couldn't do it around the outside walls because of other things you'll see in some pictures here in a minute were in the way. So we built what I've designed here is a freestanding layout that sits literally in the middle of the room. Part of the problem with this old farmhouse, I think it was old, was there were 6 support posts in the basement. And those 6 support posts, for some reason he didn't even know, had 4-inch high concrete pads poured around the posts there that actually stuck up in the air 4 inches high, which, that kind of makes it a problem when you're trying to work around those.
Sure. And
then there was this extra area down in what you see on the picture there in the lower right-hand corner, that actually worked out great for our helix, but that was an extra space we had to work with. And we had the stairs that came down into the room there, which you'll see in a picture here in just a second. But
I have a few questions for you.
Sure, go ahead.
Human City Junction would like to know, do you recommend freestanding or wall-mounted bench work?
Personally, I like the around the wall center peninsula. The reason being is around the wall, you can create the narrow bench work, which I like to do. And then if the room has the right kind of measurements, by creating the narrow bench work around the outside walls, sometimes you can put 2 peninsulas in the center of the room. This particular layout, as you'll see here in just a little bit, actually has 2 peninsulas that are opposing. But again, we were dealing with a pretty good sized basement that I was able to use the center part of the basement there. Again, this will all become very clear to you when you start seeing pictures.
Robert Holloman says that's pier and post construction. Then they came back in and finished the basement after construction.
It could have. What the client did, and I'll show you. You'll see this in the pictures. He went in and took 4 of these pads there that were sticking up 4 inches, and he knocked them out, took them out completely. And we didn't know at the time if those pads were supporting the support posts and the posts were just sitting on the floor or not. apparently he said they went on into the floor when it was all said. So we still have no idea exactly why they did this. Again, some things on different parts of the country, they do different kind of strange things.
Right.
Okay, here's 3 pictures of the room. And you can see by the arrows there, you can see those pads that are sticking.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And the picture on the left shows you how the stairs can come down from upstairs. And then the pads that he took out, 4 of those, he actually went in and chopped those pads out of there. They got out of the way. Now, what you got to remember too is those posts, those were going to affect the design of the layout. How I was going to route the main line and all of that kind of stuff. But this was the room as he was kind of doing some of the remodeling. And as you look at all 3 pictures, what you see a lot of stuff around those outside walls. So that's why I couldn't use those walls. That's why we had to use.
Yeah, the back wall seems to have the electrical. He seems to have a tankless water heater, and
the oil heater is over in the first one. That's the heats the house.
He's got the oil tank over there.
The oil tank over there. Yes, typical older farmhouse in the Northeast. I think that's what we're looking at here.
Right.
And that. Okay, let's talk about where the location he wanted this layout to be in. The map on the right is a picture of Vermont and New Hampshire. The red circle is the modeled portion of the layout. The yellow circle is the town of St. Johnsbury, which is has a major classification yard in it. And likewise on this layout, I put one there. St. Johnsbury is kind of the major hub for this model railroad there. The dark blue line simply shows how the railroad ran from Canada down into Massachusetts through Vermont there.
Right. Along the New Hampshire border.
Right, the New Hampshire border. Actually, it's the Massachusetts border there,
right.
And then New Hampshire's on the right,
right
there. The green line is the branch line that left at Wells River and went up into New Hampshire to a town called Lancaster, where it stopped. That's where we stopped it. Why did we stop it there? Because actually Lancaster is where his company is located. That's where his business is at. And we kind of put this branch line in so that we could have traffic run. We have on the layout, you'll see this eventually, we have his business on the layout. We've depicted it on the layout there.
Tina's in the house from Mojave Model Railroad. She says, St. Johnsbury, I used to bowl a tournament in December up there years ago when I lived in New England. A very, very small town, she states.
Yeah, she's right. It's a small town with a big yard.
Yeah,
there.
It is.
It's funny. What we wanted to do for kind of the operating scheme of this railroad is the main line, which is the dark blue line, basically what that is it was a bridge line that ran out of Canada into the United States, bringing products in from Canada, shipping products to Canada from the United States. That was kind of our theme of this operating, how we're going to operate this layout. And there was limited passenger service.
Right.
Again, in St. Johnsbury is the main classification yard, and that's where a lot of the drop-offs and pickups for anything that's going on in Northern Vermont railroad-wise happens. The branch line, as I said earlier, that runs up into New Hampshire, and it actually goes up to Lancaster. Was there actually a branch line that ran up there? Yes, there was. There was a line that ran up. So we're taking slight liberties here on the design, but it's still somewhat prototypical when it's all said and done.
Sure.
Research. One of the things I do before I ever start a track plan is I try to learn about the area, especially when I'm doing prototypical or proto-freelance layouts. I try to find out about the area I'm modeling because it gives me a pretty good picture of what we're going to try to do. In this instance, because the gentleman lives there, he made it kind of easy for me, but I'm pretty visual, and I have to kind of put things on paper and see them. So what you see on the right is just kind of an outline of, okay, I've got the main level, and then I've listed the towns. And the towns are listed north to south in the order they are in Vermont there. Then what I did is I went into each town using Google Earth, Google Maps, and things like that to kind of see what was going on there and that. And plus, again, I had the great benefit of this client having grown up in that area. He could give me a lot of things, information that I wasn't going to find online. Then I did the upper level, which is the branch line. We had 4 towns there: Bath, Littleton, Whitefield, Jefferson, and Lancaster, which was the end of the line. And I didn't necessarily use all of the industries and the points of interest that I put in there, but it was just an outline of, okay, these are the things that you might want to think about as you're designing. As an example, when you go to Bath there on the upper level, there's no industries in Bath, but there's a really, really neat covered bridge in Bath that is it's a road bridge. It's not a train bridge, it's a road covered bridge, but the train tracks actually and a little creek run underneath the bridge. It's a really cool little scene. I put that into the design too. I added that into it also. Tools I use, basically like everybody else should be using, use the Historical Society websites. I go on prototype websites. Some of the prototypes have great websites. Some of them are okay. I try to find as many railroad maps as I can to kind of get an idea of actually how the trains did run. And again, we're modeling transition area here, so I was primarily interested in what did this area look like back in the late 40s, mid 50s type thing there. And again, I use Google Earth, Google Map to do a lot of the research on this.
I have a question.
Yes.
The train freak wants to know, how do you build your peninsula for multi-deck? Do you build a wall to also provide for the scene block?
Yes. What I recommend doing it the way that I have a layout that actually is 4 levels. And what I did with the Peninsula is I took everything on my layout is 2x2 for legs and 1x4s, 1x3s, and 1x2s for bench work. But for the Peninsula, I took 2x4s and I actually turned the 2x4s so the wide side of the board would have been facing either side of the peninsula, which narrows it down. You don't want to turn them to where you've got the 3.5 inches.
Right.
So I turned them basically 90 degrees there, and I made them as tall as I needed them to be to support the upper level. And on the bottom, I made feet with gussets on the bottom, and they're extremely. Sometime I should probably show you my layout and how I did it on mine, because it first looks a little crazy, but when you finally tie in the peninsula to the wall, to the benchwork running around the wall, it's very stable, extremely stable on that.
Heath from Human City Junction wants to know how much research. I just had it and then I lost it. Where are you? How much research? Oh, here it is. How much research do you do versus how much do you want the client to do?
I don't expect the client to do anything. What I do expect the client to do is if somebody wants to model a particular area, a particular reason, there's a reason for that, because obviously they're probably interested in it, and they may know a lot about it, or it just may be that they grew up in that area when they were a kid. I glean as much information from the client as I can, but I do my own research, and I've never really timed it, but I would say on any track plan that would be a multi-level track plan, I probably put around 4 hours, maybe 4.5 hours of the time into research. And that's not all the time. That's doing research over a period of 2 or 3 days there and looking things up. And
Yeah, when you're designing or going, do you the Train Freak X, do you get any visual ideas from Google Maps when designing prototypical?
yeah, the Google Maps has absolutely been, that's for somebody like me. And if I'm doing modern, well, I'll give you a good example. This makes it simpler to talk about. The gentleman that lives in Malta used to live in Canada. What he wants to model is he wants to model the Canadian Pacific and the Canadian National Railroad through Western Canada there, and then out into the plains a little bit, kind of basically from Calgary to Vancouver is what we're dealing with, that general area. And he's doing modern. So it was great for me because I had Google Earth to work with, plus that part of the world up there in Canada, in the
Right.
BC province up there.
Yeah.
There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube videos of people that have shot video up in that part of the world.
True. Very true.
So on this layout that I'm designing for Malta, we're just getting started on it here. I'm probably 15% into it, but I know that I already have well over 6 hours of research on it because I get hung up watching these YouTube videos, and the YouTube videos, I pick up like one thing out of each video.
Right.
So yeah, it's Google Earth is good. I mean, it really helps. I think one thing that is interesting, and I don't even think of it myself, but other people tell me that I can easily, my mind works so I can think in 3D without any problem. My mind thinks that way. I have a lot of clients that can't visualize because they only visualize in 2D. And it's kind of a hard thing to work with some clients when they're not visualizing in what I think is a 3D in 3D in their mind.
Yeah.
Okay. Conceptualizing the railroad. This is one of the things that I'll do after I know basically what we're going, the towns we're going to do and things like that. Then I come back and I try to draw a linear map of what we're going to deal with. And this looks a little confusing. I'm going to try to make it a little more understandable and not dwell on it very long. We have the lower level, which is the staging, and it's got the reverse loops in it and all that kind of stuff. Then we have one helix that comes up out of staging. And as soon as you get up to the top of that first helix, I have a turnout. And that turnout will allow you either to continue on the through track, or you can take the diverging track. And this is a little trick I'm going to show you a little later in this program about how I can use one staging yard and have it represent both ends of the railroad there. And that's what I've done here. I've got Canada on the right. I've got the US on the left there. And as you come up out of staging, the operator makes a choice. Is he going to run southbound from Canada down into the United States? Then he stays on the through track. If he's going northbound into Canada, out of the helix, he takes the diverging track and ends up coming onto the main line from the south, heading north into Canada there. And then what you see are all the towns and the spurs that are along the main line there. The helix number 2 that you see in the other corner, that helix actually is sitting on top of helix 1. But to make this somewhat understandable, I stuck it over on the other end. Just outside of the town of Wells River, I have a branch that branches off of the main line, goes into the helix, goes up to the second level. And then on the second level we have these towns that we talked about earlier. And again, this is a stub-ended excuse me, yes, a stub-ended branch. It goes up to Lancaster, and then you have to turn around and come back down. But extremely prototypical when it's all said and done. Okay, let's continue. The trains that I run, that we've set up to run on this layout, are through freights, local freights, turns, transfer runs, and the branch line turn. Through freights simply run from staging to staging, either north or south, and they stop in St. Johnsbury. They drop off cars that are designed for on layout industries, and they pick up cars that are designed for off layout industries there. So the only stop the through freight makes is in St. Johnsbury to drop off and pick up cars. The local freights originate in staging, and they only run to St. Johnsbury, and they drop off their whole consist in St. Johnsbury. And usually there's two runs on the locals. There's an AM one, and then I usually set up a PM run, which simply reverses, and it runs from St. Johnsbury back into staging, either going northbound or southbound there. The turns all start in St. Johnsbury, go out onto the railroad, either north or south, and switch the industries that are on the main line there. But turns do exactly what they say they do. They go out, they switch, they come back to St. Johnsbury. They don't go to staging or anything like that. They stay on the visible portion of the railroad.
All right.
The transfer run runs from St. Johnsbury up to a transfer yard that is up on the second level. And what that train does is it leaves St. Johnsbury, runs through Barnett, runs through Wells River, goes up the Helix, and ends up at a transfer yard where it drops off cars there and picks up cars there, and then comes back to St. Johnsbury. The branch line picks up the cars at the transfer run and delivers them to the industries on the upper level, the branch line, and then brings back cars and doesn't take them back down to St. Johnsbury. It puts them in that transfer yard, and that's when the transfer run comes up and picks them up.
Ah, yes, that makes sense. Sure, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. So there's a lot of what you've actually got here is 2, 4, 6, 8. We've got the ability to run about 12 or 13 trains by setting up these train types here.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Here, let's get something a little more interesting for you guys and gals. What you see on the picture on the left is the 4 footings that he removed from there, so we wouldn't be tripping over those. What you see on the picture on the right is you see the helix that is sitting in that extra space we had next to the stairs, and then what you're seeing here is just a rough idea of how I want the main line to traverse through this 24 by 20 foot space. I'm not super concerned about how everything is exactly going to go together. All I'm doing is getting an idea. And early on, when I had these 6 support posts to worry about, I had to make the decision on this design. Do the posts end up in the middle of the peninsulas, or do the posts end up in the middle of the aisles? In the middle of the peninsulas would have been ideal, but it didn't work out that way for what we wanted to do. But by him taking those footings out there and being able to put wide enough aisles on this track plan, these posts, these 4-inch support posts, don't really get in the way a lot. You'll see that in pictures as we go along. You'll see those and see what happened. But this is my first, okay, how do I want this to lay out? Nothing written in stone here. It's just a general way I want the main line to traverse through the space. Okay, the picture on the left is the one you just seen on the last slide. The picture on the right is now I've added just a rough outline of the bench work. Again, nothing written in stone here. This is just to see if when I add the bench work, does everything fit like I'm like I'm conceptualizing it. Are the posts going to be okay? Can we get around the posts? Things like that. There, and what you also see is you see how we enter the layout. We come down the steps, turn right, and then turn right again, and walk through a little aisle area there. And then we have a swing gate, or we have a lift up. I think he built it as a swing gate, if I remember correctly. But again, the picture on the right is just a rough outline. I'm still not overly concerned about the exact shape of the benchwork. This is just, again, getting the generalization here. Any questions, Bill?
None whatsoever.
Okay, we'll keep going.
Yes.
Okay, now what you're seeing here is the same picture you've seen on the last slide, but kind of the standards that we kind of set up for this layout. We wanted to have, if possible, 36-inch aisles. That was possible in most places, except where we had the turnbacks for the peninsulas. And to get the length of the peninsula, as long as I wanted it to be to do the things I wanted to do with it, we had to come down to 24-inch aisles there. But because I eventually rounded, and you'll see that, Pike, in the next picture, I eventually rounded the benchwork off on these peninsulas. The narrow pinch point of 24 inches is only for about a foot, and then it all widens back out again.
Back out again, yeah.
Yeah. And the lift out or swing gate is 30 inches wide. We wanted a maximum reach in of no more than 34 inches, and that would have been in some of the corners. The track center lines close to the edge of the fascia, I try to keep them 2 to 2.5 inches off of the fascia edge.
Right.
Again, depending on how everything lays out. Okay, now what you see here is the final configuration with the final track work, and where I've now finished everything off. I've added industry spurs, I've rounded the bench work, I've added view blocks, I've added town names, and I've coved the corners in certain corners. Let me go to this next slide, because this will show you on the right the basic finished product of how the track is going to flow, as opposed to my initial conception of how I wanted things to work.
Right.
It came out fairly evenly. Can you guys, John or Bill, can they see the cursor on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. I'll just point out a couple things here. On the original conception, I had this track perfectly straight. See what I did with it over here? I angled it a little differently there. This track here, I had perfectly straight coming down here. I brought that in much closer and made it a little more curvy, closer to the view block. Right. This track, again, perfectly straight in the conception, but completely different in the final product.
Right.
And I like to do angles on these peninsulas. If I angle the peninsula, I sometimes will angle the track. If the side of the peninsula is perfectly straight, like you see here, I almost always try to angle the track across it. It just makes a more interesting look there to have the track run through
now,
it.
Now, why would you angle the track instead of keeping it straight?
There's a good question. That's a really good question. I should have mentioned that. And excuse me, this is a good example right here. By angling it from here to here on there, it gives me all of this space here for industries or scenes, and it gives me additional space up in here for industries or scenes. If I run the track work right along the front of the bench work, then the situation is you're always going to be reaching over the main line to do switching on some of the back tracks and that back industries. On this one here, any industry that's up front here, you don't have to reach over the main line to do any switching. It's in front of you there.
Right. Well, the credit for that question goes to Heath from Human City Junction.
That's okay. Okay. It's a good question, Heath. Very good question there. And then one more, and then we'll move on here. here I just had it dead straight, but if you noticed here, we wiggled it a little bit because in railroads like to build everything dead straight if they can. But
Right.
when you're replicating Vermont, there isn't a lot of areas that they can do.
True. Very true. Very true.
So I was trying to design this to more replicate what you would see in Vermont. The thing that didn't change on this plan from my conception to the final product was the yard here at St. Johnsbury. I originally designed it how I thought I wanted it to be. And if you look at it here on the finish, there really not a whole lot of change. So it's just about like I designed it. I always start with the yard first because that sets off everything else.
Sure.
Now, one other little trick on designing, if you want to think about it, and you're going to build a layout, it doesn't have to be this large, but little trick. Down here in the right-hand corner is where the trains come in from staging. And they can either go this direction or they can go that direction. By placing the yard where I did and creating these opposing peninsulas, the distance from staging to the yard, whether you're going southbound or northbound, is almost identically the same. The trains have to travel about the same distance to get to the yard. I like that concept much better than if I put a yard just outside of staging and then the trains left there and went somewhere.
Right.
This I think is more prototypical and makes sense.
Yeah, I think so too. Plus it gives it a lot more a good feel, and you're running long trains and you know.
The hardest thing in model railroading, and I mention this on every show, but I think it's worth repeating all the time. The two things that are the hardest to do in model railroading to emulate is time and distance. It's very hard to emulate distance on a model railroad, and it's almost impossible to emulate true time.
Right. Grain Express says, personally, I think the aisles are too small. What is the ideal aisle width with you would prefer? Mike Deverall has made his aisles much bigger on his new layout for operations.
Yeah, these are 36 inches for the most part, except at a couple of pinch points.
Right.
36 inches in my mind is perfectly fine because two people can get by each other in 36 inches. They can squeeze by. You can't squeeze by in 24.
Right.
You can squeeze by in
plus it's also the dimensions of the room.
Yeah, a lot of things come into play here. Right. The radius of those turn back curves totally affect
right
your width. Just to give you an example, I designed a layout for affordable model railroads for a gentleman in Nebraska. The layout is going to be built in a building that's 55 by 35. So, and we're taking up the whole space.
Yeah,
about twice as big as what you see here.
Right, exactly.
The gentleman tells us that the doctors tell him he's going to be in a wheelchair within 7 years because of health issues.
Right.
So I designed that track plan with 44-inch aisles and 60-inch curves, 60-inch wide aisles at points where the wheelchair needed to turn around.
Right. Okay.
But we established that 44 inches is wide enough for an adult wheelchair to get up and down the aisles.
Right.
And that's
okay.
But what you see here varies from the narrowest, I think, is 24, and it goes all the way out. Well, those squares you see on there, those squares are 1 foot squares. So
right.
You can start adding it up and figure out pretty quickly how wide these aisles are and that. Okay. Let's keep going.
Yes.
I'm going to show you a design trick here that I came upon this, and I honestly can't remember how I did this and whether I stole it from somebody or I just found it I just come up with it on my own. This is the helix on this plan. And then what it shows here is the helix coming up from staging. The blue track is the track that is going to the upper level. That's going to the helix that sits on top of this helix. I just want to concentrate on this helix here.
Right.
Okay? below, the trains come in here and they go down clockwise. And when they get down, they get to the staging yard, which I'll show you in the next slide there. But it's more importantly, it's what happens when the trains come up this helix. They come
Right.
up from staging. When they get up here, here's that turnout. Happens to be on this layout, a number 8 left-hand turnout. The operator of the train has to make a decision. Does he continue to run on the through track, or does he take the diverging track? On the way I designed this layout, if he stays on the through track, he will then be heading southbound towards the United States. If he takes the diverging track, he will then be heading northbound towards Canada. The track that you see that says continuous running, that's simply a track I add in there so that when the owner of the layout wants to just watch trains run or has people over that want to see the layout, that one track there can let the main level run continuously without any problem at all. There, just a little trick that I like to do. Why is it important? I only need one staging yard for both the south end of the railroad and the north end of the railroad. There, I don't need 2 staging yards on the layout.
Ah, okay.
That's it. And it, as the notes on the right say, it also eliminates not only an additional staging yard below, it eliminates adding another helix.
Right.
So,
Right. Very true. Very true.
So this is kind of a little design trick. I actually use this quite often on my designs. I think it's a kind of a slick way to do it. There's the staging. Now this is turned on side because the picture wouldn't fit on the monitor to the right.
Right.
But there's the helix. This is the track here that I just was pointing to that's coming out onto the layout. But this is the clockwise movement going down. And then here's the staging yard with this reverse loop that I talked about for automatic staging.
Right.
How would this work? It doesn't really make any difference. Trains can come down and instantly go onto the blue tracks and get stored. Or trains could come down, take this inside loop, go around, come around the loop, and store themselves pointing back that direction.
Yes.
Really doesn't make a whole lot of difference. What is kind of important with this is modeling the transition era, we didn't have 150 car trains.
Right.
So what I've designed this staging yard to be able to do is what we think is going to be the average size train he's going to run on here. He can put 2 trains in tandem on each one of those tracks. So you see 4 blue tracks, but that really means he can stage 8 trains on the layout. And the way we've set up the operating system for this layout, that's all he needs is those 8 trains in staging.
Heath wants to know, he says, I see you're using Payco turnouts with that Atlas Flex. What brand of joiners do you use?
Atlas.
Atlas, okay. Atlas joiners then.
Yeah, that's what I recommend. The only reason I recommend Atlas Flex Track is it's just so, in my mind, it's so much easier to work with.
Right.
That the Pico track may look. Some people like it because sometimes they think it looks better, sometimes they don't. But I just like to work with the Atlas track, and the Atlas track and the Picos, they marry up real well. There's not a problem there.
Yeah.
Now, one other thing you could do with this staging that is entirely possible is that whole open area. Some people think that's kind of a big waste of space. Okay, you could put all plywood there, and right about here we could put a right-hand turnout, and we could create 4 or 5 stub-ended tracks that could be additional staging tracks if you want.
True. Yeah, true.
But now you've got to get in there after an op session and restage the trains and do all that kind of stuff. So that's just an option.
Yeah, Grain Express wants to know what's the radius on the loop?
I think on this plan here,
32.
Oh, it could be 32. I can't read it.
I can. It says radius 32.
Okay, so it's 32-inch radius.
Right.
there. Yeah, that's a third. In staging, a lot of times I like to use bigger radiuses because again, it's sometimes staging is hidden. Or
Right. True.
it's hard to
Right.
get to.
Right.
So
True.
you try to create as few problems as you can on
Right.
it there. Okay, oh yeah, it says right on the helix, 32-inch radius helix.
Yeah.
A 32-inch radius helix takes up a lot of space, guys, but it sure solves problems if you're running double stacks and things like that. There. Okay. The finished track plan on the main level. There's what it ended up looking like when I got completely done with it. The reason I'm showing you this is what you see when I finish a track plan completely. Nothing has changed on the track work. Everything is still the same. The pictures on the right, this gentleman also wants to put about 80% of the buildings on this layout will either be Craftsman kits or scratch built kits. He doesn't want too many plastic kits on the layout. So this is going to be a high quality layout.
I see that. I see that.
Now you take a look at the Hyde Park pulp mill, the green one down there in the corner. Right. You can see where I've got it sitting. This is another little trick I use when I design. You've never seen this layout. You come downstairs in this gentleman's house, you turn down at the bottom of the stairs right, you turn right again, you walk through that little aisle there, you go through the swing gate, and bang, what hits you in the face? That pulp mill.
Right.
With the river and all the things that go along with it.
The wow factor.
That's the wow factor. What that does to people's minds is that sets their mind to say, whoa, if this is what this layout looks like here, what the heck does the rest of it look like? And it puts a thought in their mind that, this is something different that I maybe don't see every day.
Right. True.
But
Very true.
This is the finished product here. This is what we got when it was all finished and done there. Okay.
Right.
Let me show you the upper level.
Okay.
And this is after we've gone up the second helix. And again, remember, this is not continuous running. The trains come out right out here in this corner from the helix, and then they travel around the railroad. And as you'll see, the lines, the gray area below and the lines, that's the lower track bench work. So you can see how far that I've set the track work here on the upper level back in from the edges there.
Right.
When it goes around, go ahead.
Heath wants to know, how long does it take you to go from the finished track plan with just the track to this version with all the scenery and everything?
This plan, I probably, when it was all done and said, I don't like to count days. I kind of like to think in terms of hours. I probably have either side of 50 hours, maybe 60 hours in this plan.
Right.
And that.
Okay.
So it's not a quick process.
No, obviously not.
I want to give the people a quality product when it's all said and done.
Sure.
So
understand.
Anyway, when we get around over to the other, and you notice up on this upper level, I've got a lot of places where we have just running.
Yes.
Narrow bench work is running. There's a reason I like to include that on track plans. If you make them too busy and you got too many towns, you got too much going on, and you're holding op sessions, an operator never has what I call quiet time.
Right.
Where they know they're going to be, like, for example, from right here on my mouse arrow to over here, you only got one industry that you may or may not switch. So you can run all the way around, all the way down this wall, clear over to here before you got to start thinking again.
Yeah.
And the mind, if anybody's ever done a formal op session on any kind of railroad, I think they'll appreciate that when I say the mind needs a little bit of downtime.
Yes.
Before the
yes.
Now, up here on this upper level, this branch line, up here in this corner is where the town of Bath is. No industries or nothing, but that's where it had this covered bridge with this little creek river with a waterfall right here. And the train tracks ran under the bridge, right next to the river. It was a really
Nice.
cool scene that we wanted to add into this plan when it was all said. And then I've got the two buildings that he thinks he wants to add to this layout and where they're going to be located. And that
Very nice.
so,
Where are these buildings from? Are these craftsmen?
it says on the plan that
Okay.
they're variety. Some are branch line laser kits. There's a lot of different companies that I've got here.
Grain Express says you're open running on the branch line above St. John's Yard is very, very clever. It keeps people away from each other.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yep.
Yeah. Because people that are switching the yard aren't going to get it. People that are running trains on the upper level are not going to cause problems for people that are switching the yard.
That's true. Very true.
Right. See, these people that watch this show, Bill, they're probably as smart as I am because they see these things and call it out. Yes, that's why I did it, but I forget to tell people why I did it.
Hey, they're smarter than the average bear.
Yes, that's absolutely right. And that this little industry now, what you see here, you see this little industry down here that we added down here. That is a specific industry that is up in the Vermont area, in the New Hampshire area, that I think he wanted on the layout. So we added that little shelf there just to be able to add that industry into there. Now, what is kind of important about this, I want to show you, is he decided on some late changes. If you remember when I was showing you the trains that would operate, I mentioned that we would have a transfer yard on the second level. Well, in version 1.4, if you look at the red circle or oblong circle here, you see what you've seen just in the last slide I had. Here's what we did to change this, and this was late in the game there. This is where we put the transfer yard in, so that what happens is trains that come from St. Johnsbury Yard, they come up the helix, they actually drop the cars off in this transfer yard, pick up cars that are designed to go back to St. Johnsbury, and then there's a peddler freight, a transfer freight that goes around and switches all the industries up on this second level.
Right.
Here. And
go ahead. No, Container Man 68 wants to know, are your industries switched from different sides on different levels to keep it less congested with operators?
You try that, but you'll drive yourself crazy if you say, well, I got this industry on this first level. I better not put an industry up on the second level because it's going to get too crowded.
Right.
I'm aware of it, but the problem is you'll drive yourself crazy when you're designing, trying to make sure every place where somebody's going to stand, that there isn't going to be somebody standing next to them working the upper level.
Right.
What I do on a lot of these plans is if one person is, and this is true even for this upper branch line as it is for the main line, if one person is working one peninsula, take for example this peninsula right here in this area. One person could be working this area here and the other person is working this area. They're only about a foot apart, but they're standing back to back.
Right, true.
So they don't even notice each other to a certain extent.
Right.
They don't even pay attention because they're so focused on what they're doing.
Sure.
But this transfer yard, the sorting yard that we added late in the game, I personally think that was a great idea. Now, is it prototypical for the area? No,
probably not. Yeah.
My version 1.4 was probably much more prototypical, but he was thinking about operations and how he wanted to operate it. And I told him, absolutely, it's totally possible to do this for him.
Yeah.
So I did this show, the same PowerPoint presentation for my club at the first meeting we had, the first in-person meeting we had after COVID. I did this presentation of this, what you're seeing here tonight. One of the people sitting out in the audience said, "How is this client married?" And I says, "He's getting married." He says, I know that. He has a girlfriend and they are going to get married. And he says, how does he have time to run the business and to keep his girlfriend happy and build a model railroad? And I said, that's a really good question. I'm going to ask him. So I called him up. And this is what he gave me as his work schedule. He says on Monday through Thursday, he spends a maximum of 2 hours per day in the basement. On the weekends, he'll average about 12 hours total in the basement. And then his comments were this: to keep the wife happy, I set a timer on the weeknights. And he also has a photography business that he does on the side too, besides his cabinet making, which is kind of interesting. And he said, my photography business keeps me very busy from October till mid-December. And I think that's because of the change in leaves up in the Vermont, New Hampshire area. I think he's probably out photographing the fall colors and everything and that. And he says, the last thing he says to me is, he says, family time with the wife, running 2 businesses and doing household chores always comes before trains.
Amen to that, brother.
But I as kind of a personal touch, I thought that was a pretty interesting comments that he made. Okay, let's get into some of these pictures that he sent me, because he was very kind to send me these, and I think they're just fabulous pictures. First of all, if you own a making company, you own a plotter.
Yeah.
And if you own a plotter, you can print the track plan 1-to-1. There. Not everybody can do this. And so what I actually did was I sent him the end rail track plan with the things you see on the prints here. None of the scenery, none of that was on there. And he actually printed the whole thing out on his company plotter that he's got, which is, a great idea. Here's something else he did that I think is just terrific. Now, first of all, also you'll see in the picture, you'll see those footings are gone.
Right.
There. Now you just have the posts there. What he did, and I don't know whether that's cardboard or what it is on the floor.
Looks like cardboard.
He actually cut out the track plan based on my design, put it on the floor there in the measurements that I had given him, just to make sure that everything was going to fit correctly, and that we had enough space to get around those posts in those aisles and things like that. So I think that is a really neat idea of doing that. That gives you a really good idea of what you're going to be dealing with as you start to construct it. Here's something else that I never even knew about till he showed me this. This is how he levels the layout. And I think he buys these for his cabinet business, but these screw to the sides of the bench, of the legs. You don't drill holes in the bottom and put those adjustable nut ones, which are really hard to adjust when it's all said and done. Here, these are threaded cones, they're tubes that attach to the side of the legs, and those are black plastic threaded feet in there. And you can stick a screwdriver in the top of it, and you can turn them up and down with a screwdriver. And that's how you level them. That's how he levels out the bench work.
Right.
There.
Robert Holloman says that he printed his track plan 1-on-1 with regular home printer. He says, I call the track plan my Bible because it ran through a ream and a half.
Yeah, if you're doing it on a home printer, it's going to cost you a lot of money just in ink and paper.
Sure.
There, again, these are the little tricks that a professional cabinet maker can do that the average person wouldn't think about, or in my case, even know about that these things existed.
True, very true.
Now what he started, the first thing he started to build was the base bench work for the helix. So this is the helix part of the framework, and as you look, you'll see these those adjustment things I just showed you on each leg. There. Okay. Now, this is when he started to build the bench work and was doing one of the peninsulas. What I didn't realize is I don't think those are cardboard on the floor, Bill. And I think what he did is he cut those down the center there. After he got the bench work, this particular part of the bench work built, I think he simply separated those and brought them up on top.
Right. Yes.
And that set his. Then he to make sure everything worked. Then he took them back off, and those were his templates for the plywood. There, those were his templates he used before he ever cut the plywood, and that. These again. These are just more pictures of his bench work and how he's doing things. And it doesn't. Here he's using a laser to level up some stuff again. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that this is pretty damn good bench work here. And that. There's the finished product on the staging yard. On the staging yard. That's after he got it finished there. And what I thought was really interesting was how he tied in those supports up to the ceiling.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, I think though that is another way of kind of stabilizing everything. Plus, like I said earlier, when the question was asked about, how do you support the second level and that? Well, you can get a pretty good idea how he's going to support these levels now,
right?
By looking at that picture. And here's the start of his helix, and he did a little different helix than I've ever seen before. First of all, he's got a CNC machine. So for him, cutting out the helix was really simple, stupid.
Yeah.
And it was perfect when he cut it out. But what he did is he took and put these uprights and he drilled holes in them. I think I've got another picture you'll see. And the holes were drilled at points where he could lift these turns up and get them exactly where he wanted them to be.
Right.
There you see the uprights, and you see the holes that he's cut into them. And I think if I did this like I did in my normal track plans, the distance between these holes is 4 inches. I think that's probably what it is there. But that's his building of the bench work of the helix. There's where he laid down the 1-to-1 prints on there. And again, this is in staging, where he's doing the staging. More pictures. And actually, at this point, he's actually done a little bit of wiring. He's run some of the wiring prior to putting any of the plywood down, which is, again, very smart thing to do.
Yeah.
Now he's starting to lay the track. Again, you can see the wiring this was probably the bus wire running through here for the staging level. There's the helix as he's going up a turn at a time on it. And then this is a picture looking 2 different directions. You'll see he's adding a pretty fancy control panels.
Yes, he is.
To it there. Again, you get a little better picture of how he's connecting those upright supports to the ceiling there.
This Grain Express wants to know, this is mostly him doing it. He doesn't have anybody helping him, right?
No, this is just him.
Right.
This is him doing it. Yeah. And that what he's got going for him that I don't have going for me is he has the experience.
Right.
And that's something you might miss if you don't look closely. Right through here, I designed a bridge in the scene. So what he did is he cut this out based on what bridge we're going to be using. He's going to be using for that location.
Right.
And again, he's using L girder, a form of L girder bench work because you see the risers underneath there that he's got the sub road bed up on, and that.
Did you design the control system for the railroad?
No. He took care of that himself. Yeah. I've got some pictures of it. You'll see how far along he's gone on that. Too.
Oh, all right.
But this is kind of an overview of the whole layout, standing in one corner, looking back across the room here, and that. I think he's doing a fabulous job on this thing.
All right.
There's his.
Oh,
There. Does that look like somebody that likes precision?
oh man, that's someone who's very, very anal about their wiring.
Yeah, but I tell you what, the great part about this is it's easy to find where the
Oh, I'm
problem
sure. I'm sure it is. It's
is
a
going to be.
masterpiece.
It is. It literally is a masterpiece, without question. It is, and that
So apparently, we know he's using Digitrax.
he's using Digitrax, and he's this apparently is the power supply here
Right. Yes.
for it, because for this big a layout, you'd have to. I don't know how many zones he's going to build into this thing. We really didn't discuss that, but you need a pretty good power
Oh, absolutely.
excuse me, power supply on it. Now here's some more of the bench work where he's now again cutting out this is example here is where we've cut it out for a river scene.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
And the great thing, and he's done the same thing. The great thing about doing this idea and then putting this sub road bed up in the air is you can create scenes where the land goes down. It's always easy to make scenery go up, but it's not easy to make it go down unless you're pre-planning for it.
Roy Eltham says, beautiful. Derek Alexander, damn, that's a work of art.
That's what I think. I absolutely do. And if you look at these two pictures, you see his his backgrounds here, and you can see what he's attaching them to.
Yeah.
One of the problems with backdrops, if you don't use the right kind of support, the backdrops can get wavy on you.
Yes, they can.
And this isn't going to happen on his. Also, which you might have missed on this.
Can you go back? Can just for a minute. Roy would like to know, and some of the other guys, if you can go back to the wiring diagram, the wiring picture. There we go. Yeah, color coded everything.
Yes.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yes. Yeah, he surprised me with this picture. I didn't realize. I knew how he was getting along with the bench work, but I didn't realize he had gotten this far with the electronic part of it there.
Yeah, he's absolutely on top of things. Yeah.
Yes, he is. Yes, no question about it. Well, this is always the story. My father always used to tell me, do it right the first time, because if you don't do it right the first time, you always find time to do it right the second time.
Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? Tina from Mojave Bottle Railroad says, what I love is in one of his pictures, he has a dehumidifier, an absolute must in the basement unless you want to mess a few years later.
And especially in Vermont, there where it changes.
Yes, absolutely.
That's right. Now here's the swing gate that he built for it. Here, this is where you come in to the. What he did is he used super magnets, no locks, no hinges that lock it together or anything like that. He said the super magnets are more than strong enough to keep everything lined up.
Yeah.
And again, this I don't know for sure, but this has to be something that he knows about from his professional side of his business.
Oh, I'm sure his experience and has taught him a lot. I mean, it's like anything else.
That's right.
This
is the pit. Now this shows the upper level over the top of staging.
I like the fact that he laid the track on the lower level and then proceeded to work on the second level.
Yes,
instead of waiting for everything to be built and going back, and he had the ability to lay the track out without hitting his shoulders, his everything. And
I was going to give him my stock comment or speech about lay the track and then for 6 months do nothing but run trains before you put any scenery on it. Well, seeing what I'm seeing here with what he's doing, I don't think I have to worry too much about him.
Yeah, I don't think so. What part of Vermont does he live in? Because Happy Valley Hobbies wants to know. I think he lives in Vermont himself.
He lives, his business is in Lancaster,
New
New
Hampshire.
Hampshire. He lives in Vermont, but I honestly don't know what town in Vermont.
Right. He's in the northern part of Vermont.
He's in northern part of Vermont. That's exactly right.
Right. He's on the New Hampshire border.
He's right on the border between Vermont and New Hampshire. There,
right.
Someplace. Yes.
Yeah, very nice.
Very, very nice. Now there's how he's cut the river seats.
Very good.
And if you notice, look at the thickness of the lumber that he's using.
Yes, yes.
I don't think he's going to have problems with track shifting around much.
No, I don't think so either.
Other than maybe the humidity might get him once in a while.
Yeah.
But what is kind of fun for me is I spend all these hours designing this track plan, and then to see someone building what you've designed and it working out the way it is, that really puts a good feeling for me on it. Because at least I know my work is
Tina says that at the price of lumber today, that layout framing is the price of a small house.
It sure should be. I think he bought that lumber. I don't know for sure, but I think he got the lumber prior to when it really shot up.
Sure.
I think that.
Doesn't. Yeah. Hey, it's still a good looking,
Oh yeah, looks. Yeah, I think about it. He's going to cover all this up now with scenery.
Sure. Yeah. It's going to ruin it.
Yeah. And it looks like those brackets, he made those.
Yeah.
Because that's the brackets for the upper level there, for the second level. It looks like, because I don't think you can buy those in a store. Maybe you can.
Yeah. Happy Valley Hobbies. You live in Bennington? We'll wait for him to answer. My brother lives in Bennington, Vermont.
Really? Yeah. Yeah, where this gentleman lives, I should know that. I honestly don't.
Right. So he made these brackets?
I'm assuming he had somebody make them. He had
I'm sure he has. Yeah.
Sheet metal company. They probably aren't that expensive to build.
No,
because they're pretty simple. But
I'm sure in the business of the end that he works with contractors when he needs prefabricated metal work done. He probably,
That's right. That's right. Yeah. If you notice in the picture, all the paper from the track plan being folded back up.
Yeah.
That. But there's kind of an overview of him working on the swing gate,
right,
and some of the other areas of the layout. There's a kind of a big overview,
right,
looking at it, and that's it, folks.
I have to tell you, Bill, that is first and foremost, that is a beautiful design you came up with, and in regards to the client helping you and being knowledgeable in regards to what he wanted and how you guys tweaked it, and the finish of him doing the bench work, absolutely gorgeous, absolutely stunning.
What's going to be fun for me will be, as he progresses, he will continue to send me pictures, and understand about 80% of the buildings that are going to go on this layout are Craftsman or laser cut buildings. This is just not full of Walters plastic kits.
Right. So it's going to enhance the layout even more. It's going to make that, the build of it even more, more outstanding. Outstanding. So, Bill, what do we look forward to in part 3?
Well, I've got two possibilities. The gentleman that lives literally 6 minutes from me here, I designed a layout for his basement that takes up about 80% of the basement, but it's actually a fairly simple layout. And he's from Oklahoma, born and raised in Oklahoma there, and it's what he remembers as childhood.
Okay.
And I'm actually eating breakfast with him tomorrow morning, and I think I'm going to be over at his house, and he's going to be giving me a whole bunch of photographs, and that possibly is going to be the next one we're going to do. Or I'm going to get permission from a gentleman in the magazine, the Modeler's Journal. I've been doing a multi-part series on an N-scale layout that I designed for a gentleman back east that is strictly point to point, but it's an operation-based N-scale layout that, again, the gentleman has done just a really great job of building it. And it's about 90% completed, scenery and everything. And I'm going to get permission from him that'll be either the third or fourth show that I do
Okay.
on the series. And then I think we're going to be starting to get into springtime. So I'm wondering if we should, whether we try to keep this going or we say, okay, we did it. It worked. It was successful. Now let's maybe think about starting it again in the fall. So,
Sure, we can do that.
the people are going to tell us, Bill. The
Yes,
people
they will. I think they're very happy with it. I just want to point out something to all you. First and foremost, everybody hang on because I have a special announcement to make right after we're finished here. But in regards to Bill, the track planner, Bill is quite open to Derek Alexander says, congratulations on designing such a nice layout. I would love to see a bunch of options for staging with the return loop you described. But Tina has said that she would like to bookmark your website so when she gets her house or builds her house in the future, she'll have it. But I want to pass this along to you because Bill won't say it, but I will. Bill is very generous with his time. Not everything is a dollar and cents thing with Bill. If you have some questions or you're designing your own layout and you're stuck and you need some help with it, Bill is very, very open to you, reaching out to him and asking questions. And I always say, he'll answer 299 questions. The 300 question is going to cost you money, but he's more than willing to work with you, in your design, as long as you don't take advantage of the situation. And that's obviously what nobody wants to do. But like I said, Bill is very, very generous with his time and he's very knowledgeable and he doesn't have a problem, helping you guys out if you have any questions.
The interesting thing, Bill, I've probably done in the last 10 years here, by the ones I did for free, and now that I work with affordable model railroads and everything, I've probably done about 150 layouts approximately. Out of that 150, I refunded money to one person.
Yes.
And you know who it was.
Yes. So, but that's true. That's true.
And then I think one out of 140, 150 layouts, that ain't bad.
Not bad. That's not bad. It's a good track record. So once again, Bill, thank you so much for part 2. We're going to do part 3. We'll give that date when we secure one. I'll be in touch with you in regards to an open date for you. We'll be on a Wednesday evening. And again, thank you so very, very much for taking the time out to share this with us.
I hope everybody enjoyed it.
I think they did. Well, thank you again, Bill, and we'll see you on the rebound. Now, before we end the show, I just want to give you guys a heads up, just a couple of things. Johnny's Train Talk show is going to come up on the 17th of February at 9 p.m. And then on the 16th, next week, we're going to have a special show with a special giveaway. That's the thing I wanted to keep you guys around for, because I want you to watch it. Our special guest next week on Who is Big Bill Talking To will be Miles Hale, master model railroader. And recently, Miles has been working on an invention to which he has made. And that invention is this doohickey right here, this tool, which is pretty straightforward. You can unclip it. And what it is, it's called, I have it right here. This is not a joke. I am not joking. Oh, here it is. Miles has designed this thing called the MRU sander, 45 and 90 degree. It is a sander for if you have guys for your roto tool, your Dremel tool, and I will show you right now how this works. You just take this clip off. This comes apart, and right here you'll see it's threaded. You can insert your Dremel tool right up into there, and this goes right in, clamps in. holds your part in there, and you have the to do a 45 or a 90-degree angle, and it can either go on top or on the thing. So what we've done here at Model Railroad, we've we have purchased some of these from Miles, and Miles is going to be on the show next week, and he's going to go through this, how he came up with this invention and how he came up with the design. And I got to tell you guys, I've used this on sanding some cornices and other stuff, and it works really, really well. So we've purchased a couple of them, and we're going to do a giveaway next week on Wednesday, the 16th of February. So please tune in, and Miles will be here to explain it. We'll also have an accompanying video with it. And this is a dark metal. This is a metal green, combat green. I got them in blue. That's what he sent me. He sent these in blue. But we're going to give these away. They're $20 value, and we're going to give some of these away. So tune in next week on the 16th of February, and let's see. We're gonna do some nice stuff. So do that. And again, it's called the MRU sander. It's a 45 and 90 degrees. He has instructions on them as well. And like I said, right here, it's 1998. So we purchased a few of them, and we're going to be giving them away. So this is the first time we've done a giveaway in quite a number of years. I thought it was pretty special because Miles is a pretty special guy, and it's a pretty good thing. So please tune in next week on the 16th for Who's Big Bill Talking To. Will be Miles Hale. We have the 17th, the day after, is Johnny's Train Talk Show. And then on the 19th, man, that's a trifecta week next week, bro. We're going to have the Railroad Empire. That's going to be their finale for the season. And it's going to be a 2-hour live show. 2-hour live show. So you know those guys are going to be eating a lot of spaghetti and getting all carved up to stay up for 2 hours. So they're going to be up for 2 hours doing a live show, a finale show on the Railroad Empire based on their layout and what they're doing. So I want to thank John Mitchell for being the producer / director of this show. He's the nuts and bolts of this. I'm just a talking head. So he's all good. He's the one that makes this thing come alive. And thank you guys out there for being a part of this and with such great questions, because without you here, I'd be talking to thin air. I see my wife, Georgianne, has come on and she says, I am so cute. Yeah. Thank you, baby. I love you. Well, I love her. She married 45 years, you know. So, okay. What else? Railroad, thank you. Another great show, Bill. Thank you. Thank you, all you guys out there. And again, I just want to send out our condolences to Mr. Nicodemus, Mike Nicodemus, and to Andy. 2 model railroaders that passed away in this month of February. And truly, truly, it is a shame. And our thoughts and our wishes and our prayers go out to the families of the loved ones. Hey, guys, tomorrow's promised to no one. Make it special. Make it last. Dance like there's nobody looking and enjoy it because it's well worth it. God bless. Be well. Be safe. Be blessed. And we'll see you guys on the radio.